Good morning.
Morning.
Hello, ladies. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. I'm all right. I'm all right. Think I was just watching this. Somebody sent me a little clip saying, that if you thought January was big, wait for February. And they were like, whatever was big and causing chaos in January is just going to get bigger and more chaotic in February. And I was thinking, oh, everything's going quite well for me. I'm actually, like, oh, I must have worked through all my shit. And and then literally like I barely had that thought and Celine came off his bike and we've been in hospital and he's broken his shoulder in several places and that's his good shoulder because his other one's already filled with screws and so he's got to have surgery next week and unbelievably my sister's been here to help, which has been incredible, but she's got to go next week. So I was thinking my brother's coming, and this is going to be amazing because Mike and Liz, his wife, are just fantastic and so helpful. And I thought, okay, well, that's going to be great post-surgery because the kids have just started a new school. We've just moved into a new place. We've got a shipment arriving. And then my brother has slipped and broken his leg in Thailand and has to be flown back to New Zealand for emergency surgery. So I was like, oh, that's what they were talking about.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
that's the February energy.
That is so much to come your way in one foul swoop, though, isn't it? That is a lot to deal with.
It's hectic. And so the new school, that's been really stressful because it's the first week in a new school and it is really stressful. And my poor sister, who came for a break, has not had much of a break at all or done anything exciting because, we've been absolutely preoccupied with all of this. So it did make me think, we need to we need to open the conversation of truth on social media because everybody has this projection that everything is amazing and wonderful and that I mean, of course we still have to get on with life, we have to get on with our business, we have to get on with our work, and that's understandable, but I think we need to have an honesty lens being shone at the moment because I've had so many people say to me, why aren't we talking about the real stuff? Why aren't people talking about everything falling apart? Why are we always projecting on social media, hashtag so blessed, when we are not necessarily feeling blessed? And why is it this really taboo thing if we are a healer or we have a business? Why is it such a taboo thing to say, you know, my life is falling to pieces. Everything is going to hell in a handbasket. And yet I will still show up. I will still be there for you. I will still hold space but I will do it through a real lens of I am going through this with you. And I think that that's a conversation that we need to start having with people so that people feel, so that we can bring dark to light, right? So that people feel that they can open up their shadow side and speak through the lens of truth instead of the filtered lens of what do I need to show people so that they will give me what I need. And I think that's sort of what's really been highlighted for me in this week of quite traumatic events happening.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Mel. I totally agree. Like I've had to stop some working relationships because people didn't want me to tell the truth about the shitness of life as well. You know, and I wrote a post yesterday saying life is wonderful, life is painful, both are equally true, and both can be equally true at the same time as well.
Yes.
I agree. You know,
yeah.
I think as well, we have to embody that into our world and work through it in ways that do bring us peace. Because when we get so thrown out in that chaos, because life will unfold, you know, cruising along thinking this is fantastic, and boof, you know, but we're still blessed. I mean, because we have those experiences, they bring out other bits, you know, the bits that show up, that we're meant to be, those bits right now that we're meant to be working through or finding that avenue through. You know, I always talk about being adaptive beings. Everything around us changes so much in our environment, in our, you know, I'm not the same person I was yesterday because of what's happened and because of what fed myself and because of what I've seen and what I've felt. You know, it's all about your senses as well, and being able to evolve and coming back to that person we are. Through these experiences, we're really able to grab hold of that power, because how else do we get on? You know,
absolutely. Yeah, I agree completely.
Going on. And I know, Jo, you've had so much going on too, and we're all, you know, adapting and navigating. And I think as well, yeah, I agree with the social media thing. It's all about this grandeur, and you know, if it's not you know, getting that huge exposure to positivity or to a grand life, then, you know, flick on by. But that's not actually how it goes. We can't flick on by through our lives.
Yeah, and I think like I would like to just you know, you're right. We are like there's suffering, and at the same time we're blessed. So we can hold space for both of these things at the same time. And I'm just going to give an example of that, right? So Salim has to sleep. We've got a tie cushion on the bed. I've moved in with my daughter because he's completely unable to have any movement around him. And he's in a sling until the surgery, and probably for a long time after. So we've put him on a tie cushion on the bed, and he has to sleep sitting up. He can't take the pressure of lying down, so he sits up, and then at points in the night he has to get up because his arm's going numb, and he has to be able to mobilize and then go back to sleep. So this morning he came out and he said the first thing he said was that at 3 a.m. he got woken up with the most astonishing nerve pain, and it lasted for about an hour. And he said it was just like off the Richter scale pain, and it just came out of nowhere and it went just as fast. And then he's been, you know, he was looking quite comfortable and he was feeling way better. And so, you know, I said, okay, well, you know, we don't know what's going on inside. I then received a message from an amazing woman in my meditation group who's also a healer. And she said, just to let you know, at 5 a.m. New Zealand time, which is 3 a.m. our time, I went into deep meditation and sent healing to Salim, and I was drawn to his shoulder, and I was doing a lot of nerve work. And I was feeling a lot of pain, and you know, significant sort of nerve pain, and I hope that he received it and he's feeling more comfortable.
Oh wow, I've got
When
goosebumps.
I know, and when I read that out, him and my sister were just like, so, you know, in the middle of this pain, here we are receiving this incredible healing, which, you know, for like, we get blasé about healing, right? We get blasé about the magical qualities of traversing time and space with healing, and how powerful that is. That, you know, here's a man who's not a healer and doesn't feel or see things, and yet he was woken up with the power of this healing, and he could literally, you know, it felt like surgery going on. And he's looking really good this morning. So he's actually in the kitchen trying to make himself eggs right now, which I don't think is a good idea, but you can't tell him anything. But you know, he's getting around in a way that he definitely wasn't yesterday.
It's
That's
amazing.
incredible. I've
It
got
is.
so many goosebumps. And
Yeah, right.
let's keep it real, girls. Let's just keep it real, you know. And then that's what this is all about, isn't it? Like helping people, because there will be people listening, people watching who just might be looking at life going, what the actual, can I actually cope with any more stuff? And then you do look on social media and everybody's generally looks happy and rosy. There's the odd person that's keeping it real, but let's say the percentage is, what? Everything's bloody bright. And it's like, how do we get to that place where we can just go, oh, wow. Because, you know, like Mel, you have just hit Bridget and I with all of this information about what's happened to you, but look how calm and serene you look. But that's because you've done a lot of work to be able to sit amongst the chaos and not catastrophize the chaos. Do you agree?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think that it is natural for us to catastrophize. So what happens is we tend to go from 0 to 100, and then we either stay there and go into chronic stress, or we learn how to self-soothe and re-regulate. And so when you're doing the work on a regular basis, you are able to re-regulate a lot more quickly. And I did have, because, you know, there's other stuff that I haven't even brought out yet, that has also happened. And so, you know, it was my natural this period of my life, you know, state to catastrophize and to go into, you know, a lot more drama. And, you know, I spent my 20s as a real hypochondriac, extremely concerned about my health all the time. And I've now sort of reached this point over, you know, decades of work where I have that initial response, which is very natural, by the way. You know, we're not aiming for perfection, otherwise we wouldn't be here. We're here to be human. So it is natural to go into a panic state, and then, you know, you have your period in there, and then you start pulling yourself back and going, okay, right, well, what's next? I'm going to call in all the help that I can, because this is something that as women we don't like to do, is call in help. I'm going to, you know, just ask people for advice. I'm going to call in all the healing. I'm going to, you know, call in a lot of favors here. And boy, have we received it. You know, I feel very held and protected and loved, even though I'm in a new city. We've just moved into a new place. We're living with rented furniture. We've got, you know, chaos all around us, and we don't know anyone. And yet I just feel so held and protected and loved, you know, in the middle of that. So it's really beautiful. I know you girls are the same.
Yeah. And at this time, you know, I think that's why we're so connected. And I don't mean just us. I mean, on a global level, everywhere we're so connected, and so many people are experiencing similar things because it's a collective energy, right? But it is like you touched on, having trust that we're self-regulating, that we're self-organizing. You know, we're miraculous in that way, and we're self-healing if we're given the right source, or, you know, being able to give. And so when we're so connected in that light energy, I mean, if we go deeper, this is such a deep conversation to go to, but, you know, in the different spheres, when we look at the different spheres and what sphere we're in, we're such illuminant beings, and sharing that light energy between us. I mean, we're human, right? And that light energy all around us gives us the information to be informed. And so when we're sharing information like that from a deep level, a meditative state, we're in that theta sort of vibrational state where we can share so easily with each other. It's amazing. And I love hearing stories like that, because those are the stories we need to hold on to. And that's the truth coming through, you know. That's like, people get surprised with things, but that's the belief. You don't, you know, read things and believe it. You got to feel it, know it, and bring it back, because it's your power. It's your intrinsic knowing. It's who to hold on to that, to grab.
I love it.
I love it.
I love it. I love it. But also I'd love people to recognize as well that when something does happen, you're like, as we go along life, and you know, life every day is full of stuff, isn't it? Stuff. There's never a day that I spend, even I can't think of one without stuff. You know, kids come to you, people come to you with stuff. You hear of a story, you might accidentally listen to the news and go, oh God. And so there's stuff happening around, there's stimulus happening all the time. But then we go through life, and we can cope with stuff on a general basis most of the time. But then something happens, like Salim breaking his shoulder, or another big event happens in our life. But I think it's really important that people honor that we will go into survival mode, because we have to. That's how we get through these big things in life. And that's how we are programmed, but we are not programmed to stay in survival mode. And if people can start to understand that, you know, we've heard fight, flight, and freeze for a long time, but what does that actually mean? Well, when you are in survival mode, you are putting one foot in front of the other, and you're doing everything you possibly need to get through the situation. You know, like, you were in hospital with your husband, you're making sure your daughters were okay. You're on this high alert state, making sure everything's okay, making sure we survive. That's survival mode, to survive. But after that, how often do people stop and take a breath and go, I need to heal now? Because yes, that's happened to my husband, or my daughters might be upset because this has happened, or whatever other big event has happened in your life. But understand that it rocks your world as well, that it rocks your internal system, that it rocks your mental, physical, spiritual system. And it's so important to take the time to honor that to yourself and to heal from it, I believe.
And honor your body, because when you go into that stress state, you're so right. It's take a breath. Breath is so important. And you don't realize we actually detox so much through our breath. Our lungs are our emotional center. When we actually, and we always have residual air in there. We'll never get rid of it. But the more we can pump that residual air out and refresh ourselves, the better we'll get at it. And if we're in that stress state, I will just say this: biologically, when you're stressed, you're running from a lion. You're like, and you're telling your body you're running from a lion, and so it automatically responds. Your body responds to your being, to however you are being right now. And so if you're running from a lion, it's going to shut down your reproductive system. It's going to shut down your digestive system. It's going to direct the energy to your muscles, to your heart, to run from the lion. And so your brain is going to be mush. You know, you're not going to be making babies when you're running from a lion. You're not going to be digesting food or eating. But most people sit down when they're stressed and eat. And because we're shutting down, we end up with a lot of inflammation. And this is where a lot of weight gain comes from too, because we're just turning that into excess energy to store from when we don't need to run from the lion.
Yeah, I remember seeing the very first time I ever went to see Mel, because Mel is the most amazing healer ever. I remember going to see Mel, and she laid me on her table, and I was going for one reason or other. She did tell me off, which is typical Mel fashion. So I got told off. And then when I was lying on the bed, and I remember you said to me, Mel, you could feel my body humming, like it was fizzing. You're like, if you don't do something to regulate, you are going to go into chronic fatigue. Your body is showing signs of hitting. And once you're in chronic fatigue, it's quite hard. It's quite a process to come out of chronic fatigue. So it's so important to honor that, because I wasn't honoring. I thought I was dealing with my emotions then, because everything was okay on the outside and I was looking after everybody and the bills were being paid. But actually, it's that taking that time to bring your nervous system back into itself, isn't it? To honor your emotions, to feel your own upset. Because often when we're in life, these things are not necessarily our dramas or things that happen directly to us, that happen to the people around us, but it doesn't mean you're any less important.
Yeah, and it's often not until you feel safe that you are able to let go. So it's often, once the danger of the lion has passed, that's when, everything sort of rushes in and all the systems start functioning again. And that's often when you just kind of splat. So it's often when you need the most help, is not during the lion phase, but after, when your brain catches up with the danger you've just been in.
Yeah.
And that's often when you really need some extra support, I think. But what happens is we think our frontal lobe and our primal brain are not in sync. So our primal brain is saying, well, like the danger is over, but the frontal lobe hasn't caught up with that, and is still sort of trapped in the past. So I think that having techniques to try and regulate throughout a long process of stress is really important, so that you minimize those after effects.
But I think also on a society thing, we so want to move on to happiness, to everything being the status quo, everything being back to being okay. And we're frightened to upset the people around us, or we're frightened to, okay, well, something happened. So a week later, you're feeling upset. And again, why are you upset about that? That was last week. Well, because this is the time it's coming out in me. So my body's telling me I'm going to cry today, or I'm going to feel really freaking angry today, or whatever emotion it is. Like, let's stop having to rush past everything, and let's start being more compassionate to ourselves and to the people around us, because there are no rules in life. Stress is stress, grief is grief. And whenever it comes out, it's just coming out. And we all know that the energy of the earth right now is pushing things to the surface to come out, to be honored, to be healed. So let's get good at doing that kind of stuff as well. Stop trying to make everything okay. Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's lovely for things to be nice. It's lovely for things to be okay. But the only way to true happiness and to true contentment and to true peace is to feel the pain.
And if we don't feel the pain and we don't feel that grief, then we don't know what unconditional love is. It's really full circle. It's like that circular economy. And it's all in the perspective of how we take it in. If and I know when we're in the moment of chaos, it's really, really difficult to see the light sometimes, or see that light energy coming in. But it is grabbing hold of those moments, I think, as we're going through, like you are, Melly, with feeling the love around you and, all the support. You can, that's tangible. That's just beautiful. And that's what you can sit within and know that on the other end of it, it'll be okay, no matter what. Materialistically, we can go to different things that fall apart in our lives, but at the end of the day, we're still here, we're still alive, and we're still able to thrive and experience whatever we're experiencing in that moment, whether that be pain and joy at the same time, because we're having the pain, we're having the joy of the pain of the experience.
I do think we, like, one of the biggest things that we can learn in our lifetime is how to be accepting of the pain. And because when we get into anxiety, when we get into all of these things, what we are doing is we are not accepting where we are at. We are trying to bypass pain and suffering.
Yeah.
And pain and suffering is, a normal part of being human. We can't bypass it, no matter how hard we try. And we try hard, with addiction in so many different areas, whether it's eating, sex, drugs, scrolling, whatever it is.
But the harder you try, the more pain you're in. And the harder you try to avoid pain, the longer the pain lasts. It's like that. It's like the analogy of the buffalo and the cow, isn't it? On the plains, when a storm comes, the cows run away from the storm, whereas the buffalo runs into the eye of the storm. And what happens is they run into the eye of the storm, and they hit the storm, they hit their pain, and the storm goes over them quite quickly. Whereas the cows run away from it, and the storm just follows them. So they stay in the storm, and you're like, we've got to get better at welcoming in the pain, because there's a lot of beauty in pain.
Yeah.
We've got to look at why we're in so much pain, why we see it as pain. This is a lot of the programming that we've had. I'll share a wee story here about, death. How is it that we see death in such a fearful manner? When one of my mentors, Zach Bush, he was swimming out at sea, and he swam a long way out, and then he saw this cloud coming towards him, this big grey cloud, and he literally went, I'm fucked. And then this cloud surrounded him, and it was this school of fish. Not one of the fish touched him, but they became one with him. So every way he moved, the fish moved with him. But next thing, these bombs started going off, and he was like, what's happening? And he looked up, and there's pelicans diving into the water, eating the fish. And he went to the pelican, stop, don't eat the fish. But then he heard from the fish, after becoming one with their energy, we want to become part of the energy of the pelican's wings. This is our life purpose. We then transform this energy into the energy of the pelican, and we get to be on its wings. How beautiful is that?
Love that.
I've got goosebumps again, literally everywhere.
It is so beautiful. And I think that is just such a great metaphor for, you're right. Well, the biggest thing about the last few years is it has highlighted our absolute terror of the life and death process, because we don't talk about it, right? I mean, the only thing that we know for certain is that we're all going to die. So why on earth are we so petrified of it happening? It is the cycle of life includes death. But of course, that is so much more scary if you don't believe that there is anything that happens after death, that we don't continue on in many different forms. So that's a whole other discussion for another time. But yeah, I think that
right, we are energy, we are force, we are vital force. Energy is never ever lost, it's only ever transformed. When we transform, I want to manifest something beautiful.
It'd be a rainbow.
The radiance.
I love it.
Do you know what, girls?
Revolution.
We have pinballed everywhere today, as our conversations always do, which is beautiful. But I think what would be a lovely thing to leave everybody with is just a couple of our own tips of how we regulate after something has happened, or when something is happening around us. For me personally, after a trauma or an event, I know, I'm well versed in knowing that I will be affected, that I am being affected while it's happening. And I accept it while it's happening. and know that I'm not gonna work on my healing yet because I'm there for the other person, or I'm there for myself, whatever. But when after the event, when I have a moment, I put my hand on my heart and I say, how are you feeling, Joe? And I really want the honest answer, not the brush over, not sweeping it under the carpet. How are you feeling? And how are you feeling physically and mentally? What do you need? What do I need? It's just checking back in with self, and of course, while I'm doing that, I'm breathing, I'm using my breath, breathing in, slowly breathing out. Just taking 3 beautiful breaths all the way in where your abdomen expands, breathe out as if you're breathing out through a straw. Instantly, you feel your shoulders relax, you can feel your nervous system coming back into homeostasis, but then tuning in. How are you and what do you need? That's one of my biggest things. And then, of course, listening to my needs and doing it. Sometimes, after an event, sometimes you just need to curl up in a ball and go to sleep because you're exhausted. Sometimes you need to go for a run or a walk. Sometimes you need to bawl your eyes out or have a shower. There's all these cleansing things. Go and dive into the sea, use Mother Nature, but ask yourself and tune in with what you need. And then I go and do it. So that's one of my biggest tips on regulating and healing.
I love that. Love that. I think I find warm water really healing. So I can just really soak in a bath or quite a warm shower. And I find that, I'm able to process a lot in water. And the other thing that I do is I heart tap, and I'll state my feeling, like I'm feeling scared, I'm feeling really scared, I feel alone, I feel overwhelmed, like whatever it is, I tap and I say that over and over to really validate the shadow side of my feelings so that they don't hide and get stuck anywhere. And so I just openly validate them out loud somewhere quiet. I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared. And then once it starts to calm down a bit, then I go, but it's okay. I'm here. I've got your back. It's all right. It's okay, Mel. I'm still here. I'm still here. You're all good. So I have this little process that I go through that I just find very self-nurturing. And it's, it's that validation that I think is so important in our healing process. And it's the validation that is one of the key things that we miss out on in childhood. Not intentionally. Our parents don't necessarily intentionally not validate our feelings, but your natural instinct is to try and rectify something when sometimes all the child wants is a pat on the back and, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry to hear you're feeling that way. So we kind of skip that step and go, oh, let's put a Band-Aid, or let's go and tell Johnny off, or whatever it is. We want to skip straight to the fix it stage, and we skip that validation patch in the middle, which is so important for children, and which, if we can learn to do as adults, I think is often just enough. We don't necessarily need to fix or heal anything once we've validated. What about you, Bridget?
I love all that. Beautiful. I usually go to nature. I will go and lie in the ngahere, in the forest or bush floor, or in the water, in the awa, in the river or the ocean. So that will rebalance me when I'm way out of my neutral space. It takes a while for me to get thrown out of my neutral space now because I'm so practiced of being there. And that is the space where I've got no energy, where I don't feel the stress or I don't feel the joy. I can just sit in that space and allow it. That's a really special space, because when you're allowing it, you're just allowing it to unfold without trying to manifest an outcome. because then it's like the energy is coming through pure. And for me, and usually, when I'm in my space, after I've done something like that, I usually come home and I go into a ball, but it's a hug. I am hugging myself, and I really thank myself, because it's that space that my body has actually taken me through. And, our bodies are so miraculous. We thrash them so much with so many things that we do. Even when we're in that stress space, we create this acidity within us. So taking the time to breathe, taking the time to, really bring ourselves back into that regulation, that, and being able to be in that space, for me, that's my biggest healer. And I've got beautiful people around me too that are beautiful healers, and I can just go, oh, I got reminded of that this morning. I went and saw a friend and had a healing, and because over the last few weeks I've been going through huge navigational shifts in life, and yeah, just staying in my neutral space and being thankful for me, and actually loving what I'm doing for me, whether that be really healthy or not, because sometimes, you've got to take the good and the bad and just balance it, and know what to take in and what not, what's going to serve you and what not, because we just can't get rid of all the bad. It's and what is bad anyway, it's all in our perception of it. And it's sitting in that space of knowing that it's just going to serve our need, whatever it is, and whatever way we're going to bring it in. But yeah, the universe can certainly throw some lovely cards our way to, play the hand.
Challenge us.
Yeah.
Oh, ladies, as always, we've had a juicy conversation. It's gone in many directions, but I think them tips are so beautiful. And what I love about all of them? They're free. You don't have to pay for any of them. There's stuff that you can do anytime, anywhere. Pretty much, you can always go and run some cold water on your warm water. You can always breathe. You can always take some moments to talk to yourself, to do some to the tap in, to reassurance, to give yourself the hug. They're all available to everybody. So I love what we've done today, and I really hope Salim has a quick recovery, and I hope you navigate all your things, Bridge, and I hope all my things come bright out and beautiful as well. I'm sure they will, and I can't wait to chat again soon, ladies.
Thanks, girls.